band in Trinidad.
Yo!
Yo, check. 1, 2, 3, 4.
God damn it!
Hey,
bad boy! You know we're crazy.
This is Burdie. And this is Barney. And today is the finals of the Europa Cup, and Manchester United just lost. Moving on now. We have with us today, again, a special guest, 1991 World Youth Cup player, Trinidad and Tobago's most capped senior international player, and one of the secondary school football league's most successful coaches, Angus Eve. Say hello, Angus. We can see you today.
Okay.
We have viewers today, not listeners.
Thanks for having me. I've seen the previous ones, and thanks for inviting me to this Zoo that you all call a podcast.
The man said attack with technology already. Well. Yeah. As I said, the most cap player, I know that has been an issue because so let me clear it up, right? For a long time, Trinidad and Tobago had the habit of playing against club teams, exhibition games and so on, and those are not full internationals. So we would have players from over the years who would have a lot of games against club games. When it comes to full international games, I assure everyone, Angus is our most cap player. So that clears up that, Angus.
Well, I didn't know it was an issue, but Lysana, it don't put bread on the table for me. So I was just proud to represent my country over the years. And those accolades really don't mean anything to me because they don't do anything for me.
Tell us about your start in football, Angus. How old were you? Where did it start?
I started on my granddad's bed, actually. And so that was very young. He used to call me Butcher Ball when I was about 3 years old because I couldn't say but the ball. So I used to say Butcher Ball at the time. So that was my early nickname in football. So in my granddad, my father, everybody used to play in the community. Carnage, the football field is in the center of the community. It's like the heartbeat. As you know, a lot of players would have come from Carnage, represent Trinidad and Tobago, and I was just one of that assembly line rolling out. So that would have been my first set of interaction with any type of football on my granddad's bed.
Yeah. Any your father, uncle, any big brothers who played top flight football?
Angus Eve, my cousin, he'd have played for ASL and those type of teams. Carnage United when Carnage was big in the PSA league, that would have been the Arthur Sweet League.
Arthur Sweet, yeah.
My dad was reasonable, but never really pursue it as a lot of people back then wasn't exposed to a lot of know it about professional football. So but everybody said he was really decent.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, what was the exposure like? You would see the boys playing outside, so you'd go play, or was it more formal, like watching on TV or going to a game with your pops or something?
Well, I wish I had a TV back then. we came from very humble beginnings. So in my street, Mount Pleasant, we didn't know anything about coaching school or anything. We learned the game basically on our own, playing small goal, 3-a-side. Small goal in the on the field, and I would play against big men all the time. So the guys were always bigger than me. My mother was always bawling and screaming.
But they're probably still bigger than you, yeah? And
they're still bigger than me, yeah, up to today. There was a story behind me being small too, but I said a little bit later down in the story. So I played on the street, and when I was about 11. A very small boy, my uncle Kerry me to Pity Valley to play a small goal, what we call in futsal now and all that kind of thing. And the people were bawling because this little kid who came and my uncle at that time promised them that they would hear about me in the future. And I don't know what crystal ball he had at that time. But at that tender age, I was playing at the tournament at that time, so was a 5-a-side small goal tournament up in Pity Valley, Simeon Road to be precise, up by Kerry and they up there. So
all right. And what would have been your first big break in football, when you kind of came to prominence outside of your community?
That definitely would have been Diego Martin Junior Sec. I went to Diego Martin Junior Sec. Funny enough, I played cricket for the first couple of years because my mom, I was on morning shift. That is shift system back then. And my mom didn't want me to stay in the afternoon to train with the football team. So I used to play cricket anyway. So I played hardball cricket for the 2 years, and then started playing in Form 3 before I went on to Mokrapo Senior Comprehensive, where I would have come into a lot more prominence at that time.
Barney, you were talking about how it kind of works as a benefit with young players playing multiple sports, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as it allows for use of different muscle groups. It allows for coordination. That in cricket you have to have your upper body coordination and that sort of thing. It allows for that. So playing multiple sports, despite what some people believe, is not really a hindrance to a footballer's development or a cricketer's development, playing football or anything like that. So Angus wasn't that good in cricket though, but that's proof for that. One thing I want to point out though, when Angus was talking about small goal, I actually played playing a tournament against Angus. He was older than he was already a national youth player. A team named Figs and Oranges. He used to play help me, Pacheco. It was Pacheco, Angus.
That's how you all name teams in the West, because we really.
I don't know what. I remember we come to play them that night. And I hear this Figs and Oranges, and I say, but what mad name is this boy?
Well, that actually what happened. The guy who owned the team, he had a Figs and Orange stall. You had those oranges, and so our jerseys was actually yellow. So
it was banned.
Yeah, I mean, so but we were young kids who played in that tournament. I think we actually won it, and a lot of people. You all had a good team actually. I'm gonna beat you so much I can't remember you in that game.
We beat that night 2-1. But I think all definitely finished higher than us in the competition. But we had a decent team. But
you did.
One of the things about it, besides you and Dean, Bellies had played on that team too. Who else had played on that team?
Richard Tierro was on that team.
Right. Yeah, Bomb had played too. The team was a nice playing team.
DeLeon Sinet would have played on that team too. Mm-hmm. A lot of young guys. It was a young team. Yeah.
So Barney helped launch your career to Angus. Angus did wonders for Latapy.
Yeah. I just have to serve my country.
That's wonderful.
But Angus, that competition, that still goes on in H3?
Well, it's so funny that after years when gone by, as you well know, I like to do a lot of stuff in the community. So I actually, when I finished playing, when I coming down to the end of my career, I was running those tournaments, that Windball Cricket, the sports day that on Easter Sunday, as you know, a lot of other stuff. So it hasn't gone on for a while. The basketball court is a little bit dilapidated. The lights don't work properly. But that's a political thing. They support a particular party in that area, and unfortunately, they don't get the support that they give every 5 years.
There's a paid political announcement going on here.
I'm afraid to ask questions there.
I caught on this show with a co-host who making sure we have no sponsors. And now I bring our guests on who making sure I have no political backing. What is really going on? When I need to come back into the country, brother, I need to get help to come back. Understand that, right?
So Angus, you say at the start, up to 11, you didn't really have formal coaching. When did that come?
that really only came when we had guys in the community, obviously. Who would we had a PE teacher in school who was very passionate, but you know how that is really is a shout, run here, run there, and we always had guys with a lot of natural ability. So I would say that the formal part of it really came in Diego Martin Junior Sec, where we did play some sort of formation, and that's Mr. Hartley and Mr. Anthony Creed. They would have been the PE teachers there. Okay. And they were very good guys to learn the basics from. I think Hartley's still doing stuff in the community under some organization called West Penn. And Mr. Creed, he's always been one of my mentors, so I could reach out to him at any point in time.
All right. Now, you and Barney with the Coaches Association, what do you think would be the benefit of having, let's say, C-licensed coaches and so on, doing those kind of community work? So what's the plus, if any, you think we would have through that?
Well, I'll just use my upbringing, because I actually forgot to say that in primary school, there was a Ministry of Sport program where people like Everett Galley Cummins would come into the school and actually do coaching. So I actually forgot that. And in cricket, we had Bernard Julian. I mean, Bernard Julian was a top West Indian player. So we had those guys under Ministry of Sport program going into the schools. I think people like Mohammed Isa and them would have done South. Gali and them was based in Port of Spain. So that would be my introduction from that formal side. But it was, I think it was once a week they would come in and run something. But it still exposed us to coaching at a higher level, because Gali is one of the elite coaches that we would have had at that time in the country.
You think that's something that should be restarted, or you think that we should be aiming for higher than that?
We need a program like that. The Ministry of Sport and Education should have a program like that, because we can see the benefit if we get that from that age. Because of our system and structures. I know you had a series of writings from one of your pundits, about two of them actually. And we are not Atletico Madrid. So our system here is a lot different. So I believe that we have to start from the primary school level, send good qualified coaches, as you rightly said. And also if we could start community programs to continue developing, to start the development a bit younger. But again, you don't want to overcoach kids at that age, because you really want them to express themselves as much as possible.
What do you think, Barney? The man going through the Bible there, Barney.
Wait. Yes. The man trying to attack me by saying everything while saying it. So I just want to tell him thanks. Well,
Atletico Madrid doesn't have any player from the academy in the first team. So that says a lot.
True. I didn't use Atletico Madrid as the basis of it.
I'm not thinking. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you see, you can't look at that either, because, as you know, that's our business. So they sell players before that. But getting back to what you was talking about there, we talk about that already. I fully endorse that. If the powers that be, who's supposed to be seeing about this, as far as I am concerned, not seeing about it, then same thing as I said last week with McCann, then to me, the Ministry of Sport, and as Angus said just now, the Ministry of Education needs to be asking some questions. It's young people that fall under their remit, and you want to see the best for them. You want to see another Angus Eve come out of Carnage. You want to see another Marvin Fustin come out of Barataria. You want to see these things going forward. So, Minister of Sport, you need to do something.
So, Angus, the 1991 World Youth Cup tournament, and I remember going to 1 or 2 games, with my uncle in the Caribbean qualifying stage, Those days we beaten teams in the region by 7 and those kind of scores.
Yep.
What was that era like? Would that really have been your breakthrough at international level?
Most definitely. I was going Mokrapo Senior Comprehensive in 1988. We won the North Zone. And so Coach Bertille St Clair, our coach was Alexis. And he had, they call him Eggs. And he was coaching Mokrapo Senior Comprehensive. And they wanted a practice game, the National Under-16s with Bertille in 1988. They lost. They came third, and it was 2 teams ago. We were going through a stretch where you wanted 4, we was coming fifth. You wanted 3, we was coming fourth, and that type of thing. So we played them a practice match, and I scored all 4 against them. We beat them 4-1. And at that time, Coach Bertille saw me, and he wanted me to come on board. But I born like just a couple of months. I born in February, and the cutoff time is in August. So fellas like Dean Pacheco and them, they got onto the team because we beat the national team, as I said, 4-1. And with me scoring all 4 goals. So he never took me off that radar. And in 1989, it would have had an invitational tournament. America, who just came from the Youth World Cup, Cayman Islands and Jamaica in a 4-team tournament. And that is where I would have made my mark. You know, I was voted most valuable player from my first tournament when I went to that tournament. And after that, you know, I never really looked back.
Mm-hmm. All right. Just
prior to that, sorry, no. I was just going to take a step back. Well, not really a step back. That tournament that you're talking about, or where Lasana started the discussion, this was after the knee injury? Or
no,
before?
the injury came later down. After that tournament, I then played the one that Lasana talked about was the CFU qualifying,
right.
which we don't have anymore, and so that we can't get players a level of playing time before they reach to those levels, the older levels, and those levels were so important to play these Caribbean tournaments. So we actually played in the Caribbean tournament. And yeah, we pretty much scored about 31 goals and conceded 1 or something like that. Dwight did come back for that tournament, although he was in the strike squad. He played in the tournament because the tournament was played here. And in that second tournament I would have played, I also was most valuable player at that tournament. And Dwight and Sherwood would have come down from the strike squad to play with us.
Yeah, I remember doing an interview with you before, and you would have spoken about a family member who would always be with you from training, carry the games, and so on. Who would that have been?
That would have been my uncle, Alan Paul. Yeah, he was the one who was my role model at that time because he was influential in me not smoking and liming on the block, him and my mom. You know, lineman on the block, the normal thing in those type of areas, what guys get involved in. So he was the same one who carried me to that when I was 11 and carried me to the little tournament and stuff. So my uncle played a pivotal role in, you know, getting me around and keeping me out of trouble to pursue football excellence.
Yeah, and notice over the years, a lot of the people I interviewed, Carlos Edwards, it was his brother. Shaka Islapit would be his father. I'm not sure if Latapy would have been his mother, but they always seem to have been this family influence. As a coach, a youth coach now, do you see that with the young players that the ones whose parents are kind of tuned in have that little bit extra sometimes?
Of course, because it starts at home. You know, I tend to want to interact with the parents, albeit from a bit of an arm's length, because some of them are a bit difficult, a little bit too much expectations on the kids a little bit too early, because somebody somewhere may be telling them something different. But I tend to be realistic with the parents. So I have a good rapport with parents, and I think it's imperative that there is that base at home. Because usually a coach only has a player for about 3 or 4 hours in a day, you know, before the session, during the session, and after. And if you do, I get involved. Parents call me about if the kid didn't put the garbage out, and if he was on the phone too late. And I definitely think that's the man management side of things. And you definitely need a strong household to develop a good youngster.
I know Barney is charmed, the sucks off appearance, right?
It depends on which school. Yeah, but honestly, the people don't understand the impact a coach has on a young player's life. In many instances, or in some instances, I should say, the coach is the only male role model that boy has to look up to. And a lot of, same thing what Angus is saying here, a lot of times parents will call you for, to deal with issues with the boy at home. And coaches have to understand that beyond the X's and O's and the wins and losses, that you also have a very important part to play in a player's development. And we talk about youth coaches here.
Does that come up in coaching courses at all? Do you have anything? How to take from a...
Yes. Huh? Yeah, leadership. It comes up.
It's also a cultural thing, I remember Bertille St Clair was very instrumental in me, my discipline also, because I met him at the right time. So when I left my uncle, I'll be in Bertille St Clair hands. I left my mom, I'll be in my uncle's hands. And when I left my uncle, I'll be Bertille St Clair hands. And one of the greatest lessons I learned it the hard way, because at that time, I was what you call a star boy. I could do what I want. I was playing well. People calling up my name everywhere at that time. And I was 17, running it for Mokrapo Comprehensive. And I came late. I didn't go to training a day. And I said it had rain. But Richard Theodore went to that session. Yeah. And the next day, I ran 84 laps in the Hinsey Crawford Stadium. I never missed one training. I never turned up late. I never do it. So I always say that Bertille St Clair had a part in saving my life. So a coach is extremely important, and it's extremely important to meet the right coach at the right time in your life.
That tournament, CONCACAF level and so on, playing with Dwight, Yorke, and playing with all those stakes of a World Cup on the line. What was that pressure like for you, and how did you manage? Or was it just that Dwight can absorb all the pressure and made it easy for you guys?
Not really, because we all see ourselves as equal at that time. And if you play with any Bertille St Clair team, there's no star on the team. So we all had the burden. He always believed in discipline and team play and hard work. So with all the skills and drills, in fact, throughout that time, I scored the most goals. I was the one who scored the most goals. And so Dwight didn't have to take that load, because we had Jaron Nixon. We had Sterling Smith. We had Michael Rosales. We had Glenn Benjamin, Emmanuel. The team was stacked with really, really good, exciting young players. So we shared the load for the most part. It was a tremendous team, and I think that is why we qualified, because we had such a good team. As I said before, a lot of times Dwight and Sherwood would have been with the strike squad team, Sherwood with the B team, and Dwight with the full strike squad. So a lot of times I was toting the load on my own, and they would only come for tournaments mainly.
Mm-hmm. All right. No, but like you all said, we've had talented players before in teams, but this was the first team ever to qualify for a FIFA tournament. What gave you all the edge?
Bertille St Clair. Bertille St Clair, we were playing 4-3-3. I have never seen that system before. Everybody that we would play with would play 4-4-2. You will watch TV, you will see everybody is 4-4-2. The Germans would have played the 3-5-2 formation at that time, but Bertille was playing 4-3-3 before Pep. He was playing 4-3-3, and I don't know where he came up with the system. I never really asked him. I probably should have. But we were playing 4 flat at the back, at that time, all Trinidad teams were playing the strike squad and all did it. Clayton Morris would sweep and Dexter Francis will play in front. Yeah. And Bertille split the center half. So you share the workload. Dean Pacheco will play the holding one and Bertille normally call it the bolt with two attacking midfielders, Cohen Emmanuel, Papa Emmanuel, and his name from Arima. And Anthony Sherwood mainly, and Millington would be on the bench coming on for them guys. I would be down the right. Dwight was the number 9, and Jaron Nixon on the left. And then we had a tremendous amount of talent coming off the bench. Fellas like Kurt Trotman was at the back with Nigel Davidson, Sean Boney, Clayton Ince, Michael McComey. They were the goalkeepers. So, I mean, we had a fantastic team. I mean, when we qualified for the World Cup, that was so strange because I don't even see a picture of us in the TTFA's office, and it's not even really mentioned that much. I don't think people understand in this country the magnitude of what we did because we were mainly schoolboys, and Dwight had now got the opportunity with Aston Villa, and he was just playing with the reserves at that point in time. So I don't think we came up against all professional players when we played in the tournament. And I don't think people realize what we achieved at that point in time.
Tell us what you remember from that tournament in Portugal.
Wow. If we had better preparation, we could have achieved a little bit more than what we achieved. The experience that we didn't have, that we were playing, they told us Australia was cricketers. We live in here, Australia is a cricketing team. But they had Mark Bosnich, O'Con was playing on that team who was playing in Italy with Lazio at the time, who was one of the biggest teams. So they had players playing all over the world. They had players from the Russian team who was playing all over the world too. So it was difficult, but I think if we had a bit more exposure and a bit more experience with the talent pool that we had, I believe that we could have done a lot better than we did.
Switching hats, Angus, I'm putting on your coaching hat now. If you had that team, what would your preparation have been differently to what you all did?
Well, definitely, I would have tried to get some really top opposition, probably some camps in Europe, because if we're playing against European teams, we should have been in Europe for at least some 2-week camps playing against teams who play in football at that high intensity. We came from the colleges league. So it was difficult for us to bridge that gap. So we needed to be playing outside a little bit more, playing against South American and European. So some camps in South America and in Europe to bring us up to that speed and give us that level of exposure playing against players of that caliber.
All right. So that would have been more the lack of preparation would have more been a financial issue. Because the resources available would not have been, readily.
I don't know, so I can't answer that question because, I wasn't on that end, but looking
and
back...
And there were some games though, right, Angus, as well?
Sorry?
Like Uruguay. I know we had Uruguay and Brazil, so there were a few...
Brazil came here, right? Brazil, that's the game
after they qualified to the World Cup, and actually it's first Trinidad team to beat a Brazilian team. Yeah.
4-2.
But what those were one-off matches. We didn't have a run of matches.
Right.
So I think if we had you're in the environment, you're training, you're playing, your recovery time, you're checking all of that, because when you go into a tournament, each game, the intensity is the same level because all of the teams are playing at that level. And I thought that we couldn't match the intensity at every game that we played. And that was our downfall.
Okay, was that the main? What about the other bits like strength, technique, speed of play? How did you all match up in the other parts of the game?
Listen, Bertille is a tyrant. So we were extremely fit. I mean, when we qualified for this, we played in Mexico in altitude and won. They literally carried us up the day before the game, and we won. And I mean, when we came off, we were, you're gasping for breath, but we didn't know about that. We experienced that in the qualifying tournament in Guatemala. They carried us in a really high place to play the game at altitude. And so we were extremely fit because it was, Bertille is hard work, discipline, and teamwork. And so the fitness of our guys, we never looked like the problem was the concentration, the mistakes that we could make against lesser teams in the Caribbean. We couldn't make those mistakes against those World Cup type level teams.
And your transition after that to senior football, how was that? I think your first tournament came on Nagali again.
Yeah, again, the records actually have me playing in '94, but I played from '91. Mm-hmm. We played America U-23s, so that would not have been an official game, but we played America U-23s. Gali immediately called me up after the World Cup and after the team, the Strike Squad didn't qualify for their World Cup. And I scored on my debut in the Hinty Crawford. I remember it, Faustin Cross from the left, and I slid in first post to score, and we won the game 1-0. So I actually made my debut. It was good because, again, guys, because I went in the office and played against Jamaica at 17, where there was gunshot going off in the air, and we had that. And the kids nowadays don't have that Caribbean tournament where we could play. Those experiences are invaluable. Playing in Antigua with the people right close to the field and playing those games at youth levels, it prepared me, and it was a bit easier for me in the environment. My big thing was actually with the guys who I would have been playing with. I actually looked up to them: the Kerry Jamesons, the Clayton Morris, the Hudson Charles, which I wear number 8 because of Hudson Charles. I was more in awe of them than the people that we would be playing on any other team.
Barney was in awe of Latapy, but you probably know that already. No, Barney was in awe of Latapy, but you probably know that already.
I saw it.
You know, this thing starting to take on a life of its own. This starting to be this going to become a truth. Right? This going to become a fact. And it's nonsense. Angus, something you said there about your exposure at youth level, playing in the office in Jamaica, which that experience I never had, but from reading and seeing, I know that is our next level to playing here. While you were talking there, I sat and going through my mind, I realized that all our successful players or our better national players have been exposed from a younger level, a younger age, coming up at the national team. Shaka, Dwight, Russell, Angus, all of these guys. And it goes back to what I've been saying. We have a blueprint. We have been doing something that worked, albeit ad hoc. And now we don't do it at all. No, we don't do it at all. And we sit and we wonder why we can't have an ex-Angus Eve and why we can't have an ex-Russell Latapy. Angus was playing big man football, you could say, from a very young age. Because that experience and that exposure at national level, from youth level, that counts for many. The experience you get in that, you cannot get playing for your whole college's league career. You can't get that.
Well, and something that to add to that, Wayne, which is a good point. The fundamental change that also happened is back in our day, the colleges league were not a part of TTFA board. The colleges league is a separate entity. In anywhere in the world you go, the colleges league in America, the colleges league in England, they all are not part of the FA. So now, where I could have played for ECM Motown and still represented my school, you can't play in 2 TTFA run tournaments in the same season. So the college league should have stayed with the colleges league is not to develop football, it's to develop
It's just a competition. It is just a competition.
It's
extracurricular activity.
Yeah, it's an extracurricular activity. So they should never be, and I'm talking football politics here now, they should never be part of the TTFA framework. But it was done because, people wanted to be voted in and stuff. And they should be staying independent of that so that the players can continue. Go back. All of us could have played. I remember you speaking about it with your Latapy thing, where you could have still play for Maple and whatever and represent the school.
So you could play with Motong on the Wednesday and play for Mukrapo on the Saturday, essentially?
Of course.
Once eggs in final.
Yeah. Yeah. Eggs tried to ban us, but there was not the law, Lusana, that it has now, where you can't play in the other football. Yeah. Because school is an extracurricular activity. And a lot of people mixing up school football with football development. We are doing student athletes. Mm-hmm. Student athlete. Mark Ramdeen in IT is in third in the whole Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And our job is to help fellas to get scholarship and give them a good education. When they leave, the club teams and the national teams has to take them, like they did with me, like they did with Russell, and everybody has to take us to that next level.
As you say that, which football would have been bigger then at the time? You were Mukrapo and ECM Motong. Which would have been a bigger game for you? Has that changed the way we see the school football and adult football now too?
Well, yeah, because the football back then, ECM would basically be a Carenage team. So you would have the whole of Carenage coming out and support ECM Motong when we play in the Savannah. And on the other hand, all schools has their natural community comes along with them, the past students, the guys who go in the school right now, the girlfriends, the family members. So back then, the excitement was both ways for me, to be honest, because when you play one of the colleges league games, as you know, back then, the pitch was always full. And we had to tag Fatima because Mukrapo never had a ground, so we used to play our home games at Fatima.
Yeah. Everybody said make yourself comfortable on Fatima grounds.
Hold up. I cannot speak for Angus's era. That came after mine. But I'll just say, that Fatima won on Fatima grounds, and ask Shaq about the 2 goals he get when we beat them, right? So let me don't go down with that now, fellas. Let's take that.
When Shaq here, boy. But yeah, go ahead.
That's what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. But yeah, what Angus says is true. Back then, both types of football, for the want of a better term, were well supported. When you have a game, whether it be the Rebel League, as it was called in the time, the Arthur Sweet League, back in the early 80s, PSA was when HAS Coquerite United, or Carenage United, or ASL, or San Fernando Strikers, Butchers, Ebonites, any of these teams come into play. That PSA full, brother. Even after that era, when it went back to what we call Savannah football, I remember that same Motong, when Motong playing in the Savannah, playing against Cultural Roots or whoever. It have a nice crowd. When you're playing against St. Francois, is Belmont you're playing against.
Yeah.
So and at the same time, in the colleges league, as Angus said, everybody has an affinity to their alma mater, to their school. And one group of people that he left out as supporters is the people living right around the schools.
Yeah.
So the people in St. James coming to support Mukrapo because they can't support St. James because St. James now. And that's the thing. So the football was vibrant then. And now we have what we have today.
Yeah.
Is there a difference? Because you coach, again, Pro League and school football, Angus. Is it the same in terms of motivating your players, whether there's crowd there or not? What was the difference? Was it different coaching a team with a crowd pushing them and with nobody in the stands?
It's a stark difference. When you play with nobody there, I watch the English Premier League just like you guys. I'm sure you saw the last rounds of games where they had fans there. The games were more intense. The players could have gone. The players never celebrated a goal when there were no fans there. So it's the same here. I tell you, our coaches have to get so much credit because they're good managers. Because to motivate guys to go out there to try to win a game when there's absolutely nobody in the stands. We've been playing COVID for pandemic football for a while now in Trinidad at the club level. But at the colleges league level, I believe me, I get a bigger rush. I love youth development too. So I'm a sucker for youth football. So when I walk out there and you see around Naparima, the people come out and they're behind the team and the rhythm section goes. That is how I know it should be. And it's unfortunate. I don't know why we persist in calling it a pro league. I would go back to the communities. I do understand that I would call it an elite developmental league. That's just me. People might be vexed with me for that, but I would call it an elite developmental league because what we really supposed to be doing at that level is giving players a semblance of professionalism. So the Molinos and the Sheldon Batos and all of these guys could get opportunities and go outside, but they would have had a base that they could work from here.
All right. Going back to your own playing career. Now, I remember, of course, the first time I saw you were playing right wing with the national youth team. You played on top. You played inside. I mean, where did that, I suppose, the football IQ or whatever it is, to be so versatile as a player? What was your favorite position? And what really was your strength as a player? Why you have over 100 caps in Trinidad in that era?
Thanks for giving me that kind of football IQ credit. But I from a Bertille St Clair, and I tried to do it with my players. If you realize when Naparima play, you can see Shoaib at right back. Shoaib will play centre back. So I coach the players just how Coach Bertille St Clair. We need to teach the game. The youngsters need to learn the game. And if I learned to play at right back in a training session or left back in a training session, because the team needed me to play that position at that point in time for me to win, I would do that. And Bertille knew that I would do that. But I started off as a number 10 for Trinidad and Tobago until Russell came back and started taking jersey. And then I had to resort to number 8 because Hudson Charles was always, I always looked up to Hudson Charles at that point in time. And I would say my attributes is hard work, as you rightly said, know-how of the game and know how to play and perform the role that has been given to me. But sometimes I've been forced into different positions because I always tell myself I was one of the local players to be on the national senior team for the majority of the time. I always try to push myself to be the best player in Trinidad. And if I push myself to be the best player in Trinidad, because I was competing with a lot of players who had contracts outside of Trinidad now. So I had to evolve myself. So I started off playing center forward. I scored a lot of goals at center forward. When Leonson and all these guys started to come back, they started pushing me on the right side. And there was a game, we were playing Norway in the Queen's Park Oval. Yeah. And Russell ended up front and I ended up in midfield and I never moved from midfield thereafter. That was under Kenny Joseph. So I was always a selfless type of player and one who would always want to play for the team. But my attributes would be hard work, discipline, and to follow the instructions as much as possible to what the coach wants.
Sound like bad mind too.
A lot of bad mind.
I have bad mind in it, man.
It must have bad mind. Must.
All right. Talk about the challenge and the development. You can remember the things you were picking up, where you were picking it up, how you kept growing your game despite playing locally.
A number of people actually. I always looked up to Ron Lafferty. So I would learn. Ron Lafferty used to play flank and center forward long time. So he was my first boyhood idol from Trinidad and Tobago. So I would look at him. We had another guy named Marlon Waterman, another guy from Carnage named Junior Phillip. So these guys, I had good role models. They all played national football. So I had good role models. Going on in the savannah, we could see these guys play. Where other people may have to pay to see them, we were seeing them. They were playing with us because I was playing with them. So when I went ECM Motong, I was 17 years old, and I was starting in ECM Motong, and Ron Lafferty was player coach at that time. So that's a person that I would learn. He would teach me how to play free kicks and kick free kicks and stuff like that. And then when I went on to Trinidad, I met people like Never Dinone, Anthony Street, and all these kind of guys who took me under their wings. And so I keep learning from everybody. I keep picking up a bit and pieces. And then more when Dwight went to Manchester United, I actually started to watch David Beckham and his delivery. And I would come in and see after training and cross balls, myself and Stern, and they would stay after. Dwight would stay after sessions. David Nakhid. I learned a lot from David Nakhid too. I learned how to hold up the ball from Dwight. Russell. Russell's first touch was immaculate. And Russell taught me one of the best stories about finishing. And he didn't finish a lot for Trinidad, but what he said was, don't try to bust the ball, pass the ball into the net. And I think that was invaluable for me at that point in time. So all those bits and pieces, putting them together, enabled me to adjust ever so often.
All right. Well, what was the trick to holding up the ball?
Dwight, you had to be side on. Make yourself as big as possible. Extend this arm. If you want to screen it on your right foot, extend this arm out. It's a palm, but you're not pushing. You just keep the palm up so the player hits in his chest. And then you bury your lower thigh, your lower buttocks area into the guy's thigh. And then you screen the ball there. You can swivel either side very effectively.
With your small self.
With my small self. And that was invaluable for Dwight. I remember when we were training and we were working on that because I was still playing striker at that time. And, just by training with these guys, you see it with Raheem Sterling. You saw the improvement of him when he left Liverpool and he started to play with different players and he had a different coach. He learned different stuff. He learned to finish and all that kind of thing. So, everybody is just about levels.
And the thing about the learning too, Angus, is that from what I'm hearing from you, you were always willing to learn. So you didn't think that your game was complete at any point in time. You always thought that, you could improve by learning and picking up things from other people. And that's something that I hope any youth player or any player listening realizes, that we have a tendency of giving players accolades, like if the game, that's the finished article. You can always learn.
Yeah, most definitely. And when David came, it was a good thing for me also. David brought to me that one-touch movement, the weighted pass. In a one-touch play, David liked to touch the ball and move. So it was unfortunate David had to come so late, but David was a consummate team player in the way that he would play and the way that he would link the team together. So we had different parts of the team, and that caused the team to do really well, I thought.
Yeah. Sound like those movies when the kid looking in the Shaolin Temple and picking up moves.
Yeah. Most definitely.
A lot just by watching.
Yeah, most definitely.
At an earthquake here. We have earthquakes in Taiwan ever so often.
Yeah. No, again, sometimes they really wonder how much football the young players today look at. I mean, one thing would be, of course, when you're away, especially, they know that a young boy in England going out to see a game and he's watching Manchester play. So that's the level you see it with your own eyes, I don't know how many young players watch adult football in Trinidad for whatever it is they could learn from it, for instance.
And that is spot on because you talk to them now. The kids nowadays have a lot of different challenges. And we as coaches have to make the training sessions interested for them to come. And what I tend to do with my guys, because they don't look at football, you're 100% correct. They're more on the games, the PS, they play football on the PS. Yeah. And a fella would be watching Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, but he's a holding midfielder or a right back. And Messi would be his favorite player. My favorite players was John Barnes, was Chris Waddle, was those type of guys, Ron Lafayette, those type of people who played my position. And I tried to impress upon them as much as possible. So if a boy playing holding midfield, I would tell him to watch at Kante and watch at Casemiro and watch at Busquets. I know Shepingo like that, but I will tell him to watch those type of players who is playing in his position and see how they distribute the ball, how they get into spaces, and how they're always taking the ball side on. So just looking at those things, researching those things, takes you a very long way in learning, in your learning curve.
Yeah, that's correct. That is so true. The funny thing about it is that we had very little football to see on TV when we were growing up. It was like one game a week or whatever. And now you can get football almost 24/7, and the kids now watching football. And then added to that, the more important fact that you all added there is that we don't have people bringing the children to watch games. We've been to games, we've been to Pro League games in the stadium, and there may be one young person there with their father, when really and truly it should have plenty boys, plenty girls sitting and watching these games, because what you don't, there's a lot of things, there's a big difference watching a game live as opposed to watching it on TV. So the things that go on off the ball when the camera not focus on that, the things that the players doing, we now forced as coaches to have to try to convince these players that there are things that they have to do when they're not on the ball, because they don't see that on TV and they don't see it on the PlayStation.
Angus, as a player again, what was your favorite era or your favorite team as a national player?
Oh man, that 2000 to 2004, that period there. From the 98 to about 2004, that period there. We had local coaches back then, believe it or not. Kenny Joseph, I mean, was one of the best coaches we had. And then we had Bertille St Clair. You remember, we reached the Gold Cup finals when we lost to Canada 1-0. We were ranked like... It was the final, technically, because the other teams were guest qualified. Yeah, so the other teams were guest teams. So that basically was the final. But yeah, it's semi-final for all intents and purposes. But if we had won that game, we would have been playing in the Confederations Cup. And at that time, we were ranked like 27 or 28 or something. So in the world, we played Saudi Arabia before they went to the World Cup. We beat them. We played Morocco. We played a lot of really, really good games with local coaches, and we were winning those games. And I just thought that they had changed Bertille right after the Gold Cup, and I thought that with Ian Porterfield, and I thought that was the biggest mistake one of the biggest mistakes that we would have made, because the discipline that Bertille was putting into the team when Ian came, God rest his soul, because he was a really nice guy. But Trinidad players need a different, you're always hearing about a Trinidad player in a boat ride or a party or something. And with Bertille, it couldn't get away with those things. So we had Dwight and Russell and all of them in the team. And if they say they want to travel on a different car to go to the game, that can't happen. So and at that time, these guys, Bertille was putting that discipline in the team. And when Ian Porterfield came, he treated the fellas as professionals. But you know, when sometimes, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on anybody, but sometimes when guys come back from abroad, they want to have a bit of a fun. They want to have a little bit of a lime. And then sometimes the footballers take a little bit of second step, for want of a better term. So I thought that was the best time for me, but probably we should not move Bertille St Clair at that point.
Okay. As you mentioned, Kenny Joseph, who actually, I don't think I ever interviewed Kenny Joseph. What was special about him? What made him a successful coach?
He was a coach for the players. He was a player himself. And you find that, when you have coaches who actually played, they have a more feel for the players. So we had a really talented bunch. I remember the game we played in New Jersey. We played Saudi Arabia in New Jersey. We beat them 3-2. And it was like 2 weeks before the World Cup. It was the final warm-up game. We were to be the whipping boys going into the World Cup. And they got a rude awakening with that game. I had a lot of Trinidadians in the game in New Jersey too. And but Kenny would give you belief that you can do it. Don't ever feel that somebody is better than you. And the training sessions, they were all enjoyable. They were all match specific. And all the sessions that you would do, it would be always leading to what he wants to do, what he wants. Some coaches would come and have you run 5-6 laps. But he would always do things with the ball, and and most footballers will always appreciate that. So he tended to get the best out of us because he connected with the players. It's similar to Harry Redknapp. When I listened to Harry Redknapp story, it wasn't the most technical of coaches, but he knew what to get out of each individual.
Angus, one other tournament, that Caribbean Cup tournament, when we played Martinique in the final and won 7-2. Give us a story about that one. You all refused to play. Just before you refused to go on the field, play our power. Tell me that story.
In 1994, we would have won about 3 or 4 Shell Cups before that. I think Jamaica would have beat us in 91. With Gali and them guys. But in 1994, we got to the finals, and David Nakhid, the advocate that he is, we started to learn from David Nakhid in the camp about TV rights and about prize monies that was paid for the first place team. And actually the amount of money that David was getting, he even volunteered that information to us.
How much were you all getting?
Traveling, traveling from Carenage to the camp, and that sort of stuff. So we weren't getting anything really. We were going to go home with about $1,000 TT. Yeah. And so David started to enlighten us about that. So we said that if we reach the final, because all the pundits, the Trinidad pundits, wrote us off. They said we could not beat the Martinique team because they had Jean-Pierre Sophie and all these guys were playing in the French league. And they were running through the tournament. And we nearly lost to Suriname in the semifinals. Marvin scored a golden goal so that we could have won. And the only foreign players we had at that time would have been David and Gerard Nixon, who was playing in Dundee in Scotland. Okay. So we basically was a local team, and they had their team, and so our pundits here wrote us off as per usual. And so we had that resolve where we wanted to really show the people what we could do. And in that game, the night before the game, we said that we weren't going to play unless we could get X and X and X amount of monies. I think it was Kenny Joseph was the head coach at that time. Yeah. And
you are a young player then. So you were kind of listening to the big ones, or you were?
No. I was asked David. I was right up front. I was never in the back. never in the back. So we were there, and we told Mr. Warner at the time that we wasn't going to play. But we knew what we were doing because Pele and Yao Avalanche came down for the finals. Mm-hmm. So we knew that they didn't want to get that level of embarrassment. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to make a statement and to get what we deserve. And so the Minister of Sport was there. I think it was Jennifer Johnson at the time. And this is 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. All of our bags packed to go home. We wasn't going to play the game, and we weren't being paid. we won't play in professional football outside. So baffles me now how players nowadays are allowing these things 6 months before they get salaries and stuff. That's a different conversation. But we wouldn't accept anything else except certain stuff. And I mean that day when we went and played the game, because we were so focused for the game to prove to our local pundits and to prove to everybody that we could do it. We beat them 7-2. Alvin, the goals that we scored that day, I mean, it was just all blinders. Alvin Thomas opened the scoring for us. We were 2-0 down. Alvin Thomas scored. We were 2-1. Hudson Charles scored 2 that day. Dean Pacheco scored 2, and myself scored the other 2 to hit them 7. I might add that all Mokrapo senior comprehensive players, by the way, except for Alvin Thomas Wayne.
I know it
the
was coming.
Neighbors. The noisy neighbors. Okay, Fatima, the noisy neighbors.
I know it was coming.
Yeah, but it was a tremendous day. I think that was one of the best days, individual days in my life, because Brian was making the run in Antigua at the same time. So the crowd was cheer every time the crowd cheer a goal, they cheer 50 runs to Brian. So it was a really nice day.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to be in the Oval that day to watch a goal. Alvin Thomas scored a blind.
Yeah.
Alvin scored and Alvin had the team played really good that day. So now that I know that it had money behind it, now I could understand.
that is wow. Yeah. That was
understand.
Yeah.
So better money, better performance. It linked.
It is linked. I mean, check all the top players in the world. Cristiano Ronaldo left Real Madrid because they didn't want to pay him what he wanted. He went somewhere else. He did it again. You work hard so that you could achieve. But in going higher, just like Sana, if you having your media officer, you want to go to the highest that you can go to. And when you own your own business, then you make a little bit more money. Now you're paying people. So, it goes hand in hand.
I was doing better until
I don't get paid. I don't get paid. I don't get paid. So I appreciate. No, but I appreciate all the man lobbying for me there because you're one of the best out there. Pay me.
So I'll link up with Barney on this podcast. I find I stopped getting paid too. But so you played, like I said, Motong, you played Defense Force, Joe Public, Japlote. Give us a brief summary of what it was like at each team and how it helped in your development.
At ECM Motong, I was only a kid, and so that played a big part in my development because I was playing with a lot of people way older than me, some of them twice my age, and they all taught me something. I see no experience as a bad experience. So, Ron Lafferty was my mentor anyway, so it was a pleasure for me to play with him. And then I would have moved on to Caledonia. A lot of people didn't know that I played but did not play for Caledonia AIA because I was contracted with them after ECM Motong. But I never got to play because I was always with the national team for that whole year. And I was playing in the Caribbean Pro League with Trinity Pros, I think it would have been, at that point in time. So we had the Caribbean football, professional football league at the time.
You got paid in that Caribbean professional league?
Sorry?
You got paid well in that Caribbean professional league? What was the salary?
Yeah. We were at that point in time, yes, I would say we were paid well because it's relative to that time.
Yeah.
It had a good bonus structure and a lot of good stuff going on. We were staying at good hotels and good venues and stuff like that. I think that league was really good actually in my development because again, we get to travel and see different places and playing in different atmospheres, so that was invaluable. And then, I went to Trinidad and then on to the Defense Force.
I remembered when he was still playing at Jablote and coaching the U team at the beginning there. I remember I went to a session with you. What was your experience starting coaching? And I know that you're going to tell me Bertille was one of your main influences. I know you're going to tell me that. But from starting out, what what drew you? What attracted you to coaching?
First of all, he started off coaching under the current national coach Terry Fennick.
Yeah, we'll get to that part, Lasana. Okay. But what I'm asking you is, a number of players have left the game and coaching hasn't attracted them. What attracted you to coaching?
I love the game. And as you said earlier, as a player, I was a student of the game. And I had to work harder than the more naturally gifted players. Russell and them were more naturally gifted. So in me having to work hard at the game, I actually learned to coach, because learning how to cross the ball, how to trap the ball, how to work on your touch, all the things I tell you that I was learning from the players that I would have played alongside and some of the coaches that would have coached me. I always had that passion to help develop the younger players. And a day, the coach didn't turn up to the session, and I started to coach the guys. And Jerry was there actually, because it was like a trial day or something. And he said, "Well, you think you want to coach?" Because I was about 33.
Hospitales?
Yeah, Jerry Hospitales.
Okay.
So I would have been about 33 about that time, starting to wind down from the game and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? Yeah, why not? I said, yeah. And when I started to coach, I had a really talented bunch of guys. You had Curtis Gonzalez, Daniel Joseph, Stephon Knox, Sheldon Batu, Kevin Molino. It was an unbelievable group of kids. So I remember I coached them for one season. We didn't lose a game and we won. And then they went on to the colleges. And I remember Sellers Figaro, because I'm an old Mokrapo comprehensive boy. And Sellers brought me in to talk to the players. And he actually thanked me, because he said he saw the development in them from when they came from the club and back into school. He saw differences with the guys. And that was a really nice credit for me. And that propelled me more to want to coach. And I would have done my UEFA badge about a year after that. Because as a national player, you would have had you could naturally they bump you up to a C license. So I was able to do my UEFA B at that point in time, which Mr. Jack Warner used to bring those courses here that we could do them, because if you had to pay to go to England to do them, it's a pound and a crown. So that's how I started coaching actually in Jabote.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, it went for your badge that early. You said within a year. I think, I don't know that a lot of coaches locally really, go after certification in an aggressive way, but you did, talk about your mindset in terms of that then.
Because I made up my mind. Yeah, when it got in my blood that when the coaches start telling me how I impacted the players, because at that time you're looking for what you were going to do. To be honest, I was going to do taxis. I had a car rental business already started, and I was going into that field preparing for finish playing. And so that just propelled me into say, well, you're doing something that you love already. Football comes naturally to you. So I said, if you're doing it, go all the way and do it. And it was so canny that the opportunity arose. They had this guy did it with like people like Marlon Charles. It had a lot of Caribbean head coaches. Martinez, I can't remember his first name right now. Martinez was the assistant coach to the Mexican national senior team at that time. He coached the under 23s. And he was also on the course. And I got very close to him on the course. He's passed now, but I got really close to him on the course. And so he actually had a laptop that day. It's so funny that he had a laptop in the tournament, and my name, Arnold name, Russell name, because they do scouting on us. And the laptop moves from one coach. So if he comes in the job, he gets the laptop with all the information on it. They update the information. And he was showing me, the players that they thought was dangerous, because my assist to goal ratio would have been better than most players at the national level at that time. So he was showing us that. So that that further got me more, wanting to do it. And and it became natural to me, you know. It just, and then I went on to be the assistant coach at the proper senior team when I finished playing.
Mm. And how was that? How was that working with that the head coach of that team would have been Terry Fennick, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, because I worked with him a couple of years as a player, it was a bit seamless. Terry always gave me a level of respect. We always got along well at that time. So a lot of times, some of these sessions, because I was still a little bit nervous, because I was just playing with people like Trent Noel and all of them, and now that you have to actually coach them. So I was a little bit nervous at the time. And so he would have given me sessions to do. And then when I started to get a little bit more comfortable, he just would tell me what type of sessions that he would want and stuff like that. So really appreciated to the Jablote organization for actually giving me that start.
Mm-hmm. I know you are attacking player. As a coach, you will consider yourself a little bit more conservative. Is that normal where they say sometimes defensive players make attacking coaches and vice versa? What do you think?
Michael Jordan said when he learned to defend, he started to win titles. I'm a big Michael Jordan fan. Michael Jordan will score 40, 50, 60 points, and his team will still lose. And so my principles are, if you have a good base, a good foundation, every good house is built with a good foundation. So yeah, and my early, the early coach that I would look at would have been Molino. When I was coming out. In when he was coaching, but it all depends on the type of players that I would have. Because when I was coaching the under-23s, I was a bit more expansive with that group because I had some really fantastic players there.
So, Angus, with all the players you'd have coached at youth level, and I know coaches do like to pick favorites, but what player you can remember a particular story about him that, you know, you feel really warm to see where he got to afterwards, you know? You have any player that stands out?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of players, as you rightly said, Lasana. But I think everybody knows Kerry Baptiste was my greatest story. You know, Kerry was a young boy from Carnage, and I remember he used to be in the camp with me as a kid. He was only 11 years old, and he would be in the national team camp with me. And I really took an interest in Kerry Baptiste. And so Kerry would be with me, would train with me, would play and everything. And when he would be in national team camps, you know, he would clean Dwight and their boots, and they would give him a little dollar and clean ladders and then boots and stuff like that. And then some years after, Dwight said, "This is not the same kid who used to be with you, and he was in the camp, and now Kerry was playing with the team, you know." So Kerry Baptiste would be the one standout for me. And yeah, I mean, he had a prolific local career. It's unfortunate it didn't materialize into something on the outside. But if I was to target one that it actually happened to on the outside, it would be Kevin Molino. Again, you know, bringing him up from Carnage, young fella. And there was a story when Kevin was dropped from the national under 17 in the trials. And you know how trials just go. So coaches may miss a guy in the trial if you're a little bit too shy and stuff like that. And when he turned back up at Jablote training, I said, "Why are you here?" Because there's no way that I think that somebody will drop him from the national team. Coach Anton Cornell was the coach at that time. And me and Anton has always had a rapport. So I called Anton. I said, "Listen, Anton, I have two guys here with me." And Sheldon Bato was the other guy. I said, "I have two guys with me here. They were training in UE." And I said, and Anton spoke about it in public, so I can speak about it also in public. And Anton said, "Well, Angus, okay, you know, bring the guys down because he trusts me as my recommendation." And Kevin went on to score the goal in Jamaica for them to qualify for the World Cup and all that kind of stuff. So those type of stories, you know, they really stand out to me, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
How do you use Molino?
he would play on the left and drifting into them pockets just in behind the opposition midfield. And Levi would play number 9. And he could link up with Levi and play 2 balls for Levi. And because I'll play a false 9 because I don't think we have any genuine 9s right now. And I think that Levi pace and power, you see him when he dribbles past people and he links up with people. That's his strength. I watch him in the European Cup games and stuff like that. He likes to run at people. So if he drops off in them little pockets. So Molino and him could have a really good tandem with Molino playing that free role and he floating. And I think that could be a good partnership.
I wanna go back on the World Cup campaign, the upcoming games. The 2 teams that we're going to play. The first game is what day the first game is?
The 5th of June.
Yeah.
Right. I know I don't want to put you on the spot. You might know much about Bahamas, about this particular team. But what you think going there, we need 2 results.
Yeah.
So it's basically 2 finals we're going to play. What do you think would be the approach on the front foot?
And the Bahamas conceded 8 goals in 2 games, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
The Bahamas team is made up some USL players. They have I have researched the teams, Sheppy.
That's
they have a couple of players who played in the lower leagues in England. So they're not really they're a hard-working team. They try to fight as much as possible. They're a fit team, and so you have to wear them down before you get the goals against them. I don't think it's a team that if we put our best foot forward with the players that we actually have, and as I said a little bit earlier, I believe that our players will be a lot more match fit now than the last 2 rounds that they were played, and that will augur well for the performance of the team in the sense of the sharpness of the players. So I definitely think we can win the game, but we do have to come with our A game. As I said, I would like to see a little bit more organization in the press, how we win the ball. Seeing where we want to go forward, we're going with longer passes. Probably we have to try to build it up a little bit more in the opposition half, because we may have to break them down because they come in as spoilers. They have nothing to lose, so they will be coming out to be spoilers. If they get a draw, anything like that, they throw Trinidad out of the World Cup, and so we have to take it very seriously.
So you're saying we can't just blow them out in terms of just run straight into them with long balls and so on wouldn't be the best approach?
No, because that is actually the strength. The players play in the lower leagues, so they like dogfight. You know, we played against Bahamas a number of times with national teams, and I mean for the first 30 minutes, you know, they kick and cuff. They close to that English type, lower league type style of play. They normally bring to the table. Yeah.
Mm. All right. And what about
the next game?
Yeah.
St. Kitts.
St. Kitts is a thing here as well with St. Kitts. That player who's at West Brom. But
yes,
Romain. Yeah. But then he hasn't really since Big Sam took over. He hasn't been used for months, which is a kind of interesting little conundrum they have there. But yeah, what do you think about the St. Kitts challenge?
Well, just to talk about him because you brought him up, you remember he will still be playing in reserve games, which is still playing against top players. They have a few more guys that they're trying to bring in. So that game will, out of the 2, is on paper is the more difficult game. But again, I tend to always go into a game really positive. I think that we have the talent. Albeit our players are playing in not as bigger leagues as they used to play before, I still think that we have a semblance of a good squad that could, I'm not saying we're going to qualify for the World Cup. I'm not that naive. But I think we could still come out of the group if we organize right and if we do our research on the teams and look at their strengths and their weaknesses. And I believe that we can capitalize on it.
So the juggernaut in school football, we have rivalries everywhere. And of course, in school football, yourself and Naparima Presentation College is a big rivalry. So tell me, Sean Cooper, he's bringing the best out of you.
Actually, everybody actually. I don't. The problem with a lot of coaches, they want to beat me. Like Wayne hasn't won a title, but he's still talking about one game that he beat me in.
So you don't have a rival, but everybody.
Everybody,
yeah,
I'm everybody's rival. I'm everybody.
This fella is killing himself, you know.
Yeah. So as I tell my players, you know, every game is a final, and we want to win every game. But I walked into a natural rivalry that is Presentation and Naparima, and I loved every minute of it. I think Sean Cooper is a good coach. Yes, he does. Yeah. It's not just Sean Cooper, but the whole aura around the game. Mm-hmm. I can't live. I live and breathe, and every time we play them, it's like a life and death type of game, because it's either we're trying to win the title or we're trying to stay unbeaten or something of that sort. And you know, I guess it's the same for him too. He probably hates the sight of me a little bit more than I hate the sight of him, because I think I've been on top of him for a little while now. He pulled one over on me the other day in the South Zone knockout championship. They beat us on penalty kicks.
He gets the trophy long with COVID. I'm thinking he might keep that trophy for 3 years.
They changed the name of the trophy to the Sean Cooper trophy now, because
my unbeaten run going for the same amount of time too, is it? Yeah, but I think Sean is a great guy. I really love the I know the last game I was chuckling with him after the game, because we beat them about 3 times on penalty kicks, and that particular game, Sean left. He didn't stay on the bench. I was looking for him, and they tell me that he left, and he was actually in the dressing room. And it was only when they won he came back out, because he couldn't bear himself to look. You know, I think he was sick of the sight of us. You know, that rivalry will go on, because there's a natural rivalry there, because who wants to be the big man in South kind of thing, between the two schools. It's all wrong. It's academically everything. I think Fatima only got 1 scholarship. Naparima got about 23 again. Number 1 school again.
We working with the Arima program. We trying to get, you know,
sorry, I forget you have your picture by the gate there, Fatima, and you can't go in there. I apologize.
The Ghostbusters.
So, Angus, what would you say is unique about your NAPS team? How could somebody walk in and they could tell which team is NAPS, and how would they be able to tell which team is Presentation? What about the way either of you all play, do you think?
It's so funny that I think me and Sean's style is very close. I think we like our defensive game at first. I think that I'm a little bit more expressive than him in the opposition half. But so I think that what we do on offense, because he's very sterile in what he does on offense, he would have one special player, like a Riley, who he tends to give the ball to and allow Riley to do something. Or let's call him Hulk. I can't remember his real name right now.
Jacob, I think it is.
Jacob, yes, sorry. And who tends to be able to do a little bit different, or Shepherd, who tends to do something a little bit different. We are more a team attacking oriented group, with making spaces for players to get into or get in behind, because we may have pace with a fella like Bramble, and we need to devise ways to get Bramble in behind, as opposed to him being a little more individualistic in going forward.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Barney?
No, I was just going to say, from a rivalry point of view, I grew up with, you know, Fatima St. Mary's as the rivalry, but Pres Naps, that's not just the rivalry in South, that's the country's rivalry now. That game supersedes any other SSFL game. If people have never attended a Pres Naps game, they should, just to a throwback to how college league used to be back in my day and further back. I feel it's the closest thing to that now because if those two schools really don't like one another. They really, really don't like one another. Yeah. There's a grudging respect for each other. There's a grudging respect for each other, but they honestly, you know, when you could tell that they don't like one another, the build up and the aftermath of the games, you must take in somebody pick on that person, go and write up on who wall, who bring out artwork with the next one, dragging the next one name and mother and thing, and the game in either players yet or the game gone already. Yeah. that rivalry serious. So the two schools fortunate enough to have two very good coaches. I unlucky to be friends with both. So I just had to hear the both of them. but that rivalry is the rivalry.
But can I I want to make a plug for myself.
Sure. Wait, now you didn't do that? You didn't do that whole show?
Not really. I was talking about the questions that Wally asked me. So, I thought that I was a young coach coming up, and I was coaching assistant coach with Vanish, and Vanish had just lost the under-20s, but he was doing both teams, under-20s and 23s. And we had to go to Mexico like in a 3-week period. And Anton Collins came to me. And I thought I had a really good squad at that time. You know, the Sheldon Batos, Mikel Williams, all the guys who are on the senior team now. Kevin Molino, Curtis Gonzalez, Daniel Cyrus. We really had a good team, Trevin Caesar. And we went to the Pan Am Games. And I don't know what the records are before, but we went to the Pan Am Games. We played Uruguay, Ecuador, and we played Mexico. And all of the Mexico players now are playing all over the world in some of the top leagues. The fella from Atletico, Sheppy, tall guy, he was wearing number 16. The striker who played with Wolves in England. And we came out that tournament actually unbeaten. And a lot of the Uruguayan players now are playing for Juventus and all these other teams. And when I was talking about the tactical awareness of the international football as opposed to what we do locally, I didn't have video cameras and stuff. But because we came into the tournament late, I got to see the two teams play in the first game, and I got to take notes and stuff like that. And that was so important. Derek King was my assistant at that time. And that was so important, having that level of, to be able to see the teams and the importance of scouting a team and how they play so that you can best prepare for them. And I mean, it was really unfortunate that we didn't go on to the second rounds because Uruguay lost one to Mexico and they drew against us. And that was the 4 points they had. We finished with 3 points. So we came out unbeaten. And I've never gotten a national team since that. That's the plug I'm making. Yeah.
All right, Barney, sign us off.
I sign off long time. Only make me other shift across and put him in charge, all kind of thing. Yeah, Eve, again, it was nice. It was good, knowledgeable. We definitely will have you back on at some point in time to talk some other things. But based on the World Cup qualifiers coming up and your career and everything, I thought it was fitting that what you shared with us today. So thanks again on behalf of the Burdie and Barney show. It really should be the Barney and Burdie show, but we'll discuss that later. Thanks again, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, guys, and God bless and all the best in all your future endeavors.
Yeah, we just need to get like Bird off the show. That's it.
When I'm further than Taiwan, boy, I don't get any map, boy. I get my atlas. We're further than Taiwan. I can't find enough.
No, this actually this show is recorded right after Villarreal defeated Manchester United now. So
that could be old news by that. Nobody want to hear old news by that time, man.
No. They need to know because you see, there's this guy, you kept telling me that they're going to be playing in a Super Cup final. In the European Super Cup. They didn't study in the Europa finals, you know? The Super Cup.
We make Final 4. I think Real Madrid make Final 4.
Hold on. We make Final 4 in the first division European Super Cup.
We make the European Super Cup semi-final.
we make the champions. We make the European Cup semi-finals too.
Or they make the Champions League semi-final. We make the European Super Cup semi-final.
Show me it on your trophy now. Show me it on your trophy. You are no shame, boy. No, you have no shame. And that is why I'm going to be merciless for the next one. Go again.
I'm going to tell Taiwan police here on the street, no mask. This is Burdie.
And this is Barney.
And this is the Burdie and Barney show. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And we out.
We will?
I said
an election? And we out.
Turn on your radio, tell me why you're here. You hear the use of soca gon' clear this year. Some people want we quit, but we just don't care. Cause I'm a devil of like the other young men. If it had no melody, you ain't no singing. And if it's violence, the youth and them did bringing. Don't try to hold me back because the way the people clinging. The bad boys go keep on singing. Cause it's only war amongst the stars. Now why the thing can't reach far? It's only war amongst the stars. They take it too far. Well, so whether jump or whether wave, people like it. And the Congo misbehave. People like it.